The morning sun rose over Lagos like molten gold spilling across a city that never truly slept. In the heart of Ikoyi, where glass towers touched the sky and security gates gleamed under cameras, lived one of the richest men in Nigeria, Chief Nathaniel Okafor. To the world, he was a symbol of success, the man who turned a single construction company into an empire of steel, oil, and power. But inside his mansion, behind the mirrored walls and perfect lawns, something was quietly breaking. His 10-year-old son, Chidi, sat in the family study, surrounded by books and silence. The boy was brilliant, everyone said, but withdrawn tutors came and went. But Chidi never smiled. Chief Okafor had no time for such things. He was too busy closing deals and signing contracts worth millions. His wife, a woman of polished grace, had long given up on trying to reach the child. "He's just shy," she would say, adjusting her pearls. But the truth was simpler. Chidi was lonely. That morning, as his father's convoy roared away, the boy slipped out of the gate unnoticed. He carried a worn-out backpack and a curiosity too big for his world of privilege. The street beyond their mansion was another world entirely, filled with vendors calling out, buses honking, and barefoot children chasing tires. For the first time in his life, Chidi walked among them. He wandered until he reached a small park by the roadside. There, under a broken streetlight, he saw a boy about his age, sitting cross-legged on the ground. His clothes were torn, his face smudged with dust, but his eyes were alive, bright and full of fire. In front of him sat three younger children, listening intently as he drew shapes in the dirt with a stick. "This," the boy said, pointing, "is the letter A. It's the beginning of everything. If you can write this, you can write your name. And if you can write your name, the world can never pretend you don't exist." Chidi stopped. The words hit him harder than he expected. He had never heard anyone talk about letters like that, like they were keys to something magical. He watched silently until the lesson ended. When the little ones ran off, Chidi approached the boy. "Where did you learn to teach like that?" he asked. The homeless boy looked up, surprised. "From a book I found in the trash," he said with a shrug. "You can learn anything if you have a little light and a place to sit." Chidi smiled shyly. "You're really smart." The boy grinned back. "I try. My name's Tunde. What's yours?" "Chidi." They shook hands like old friends, and from that moment, a strange friendship began. A friendship that crossed the invisible wall between wealth and want. Every afternoon after school, Chidi found excuses to sneak away. He'd bring old notebooks, pencils, sometimes even snacks from the mansion kitchen. In return, Tunde taught him things no private school ever could: how to make a paper kite fly against the wind, how to see faces in the clouds, how to laugh without reason, but most of all, he taught him gratitude. One day, Chidi brought his tablet to show Tunde pictures of space. The homeless boy stared in awe at the swirling galaxies. "You mean, all this is real?" he whispered. "Yes," Chidi said, "and we're a part of it too." Tunde's eyes shone. "Then maybe there's a place out there where people like me don't get chased away." Chidi didn't know what to say. For the first time, he saw the world through Tunda's eyes, a world of empty stomachs, cold nights, and dreams that no one believed in. But their secret friendship wouldn't stay hidden for long. One rainy afternoon, as thunder rolled over the city, Chief Okafor's driver pulled the car to a stop outside the park. Through the rain-streaked window, the billionaire saw his son, his only heir, sitting in the mud beside a homeless child, laughing like he hadn't in years. "What nonsense is this?" Chief Okafor barked, stepping out into the rain. His security men followed, umbrellas snapping open. Chidi froze, his face pale. Tunde stood up, shielding his friend without thinking. Who are you? The chief demanded. I'm Tunde, sir, the boy said, trembling but firm. I was just what? Polluting my son's mind with street talk? Chief Okafor's voice boomed. Do you know who I am? Yes, sir, Tunde said quietly, but I also know who he is, a boy who just wanted a friend. The words landed like a slap. For a moment, the billionaire had no reply. He turned to his son. Chidi, get in the car. No, Chidi said softly. The guards shifted uneasily. No one ever defied Chief Okafor, not even ministers. But this was different. This was a father, facing a truth he didn't want to see. Chidi now, he shouted. Tears welled in the boy's eyes. He's not what you think he's kind. He teaches kids who have nothing. You're always telling me to be great, but he's already doing something good. Chief Okafor stared at his son, the rain running down his face. Behind him, drivers honked impatiently. The city carried on, uncaring. For a man who had built skyscrapers, it was the first time he felt small. He turned slowly toward Tunda. The boy stood there, drenched, defiant, clutching his stick like a sword. Where are your parents? The chief asked. Tunda lowered his eyes. Gone, sir, long time ago. Something inside the old man shifted, a flicker of recognition. He had once been poor, too, long before the wealth, long before the headlines. He had begged under the same kind of sky. But he had buried that memory deep, somewhere success could never reach. He exhaled. Get in the car, both of you. Chidi blinked. What? I said get in the car. Tunda hesitated. Sir, I can't. Now. They climbed in, dripping water onto the leather seats. The guards exchanged puzzled looks but said nothing. Chief Okafor drove in silence, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. When they reached the mansion, he parked outside the gate and turned to Tunde. You're going to have dinner with us, he said simply. Tunde's eyes widened. Dinner? In there? Yes, and after that, we'll talk. For the first time that day, the billionaire smiled. Not the practiced smile for cameras, but something real, almost human. Inside, the servants froze at the sight of the street boy. Mud on his feet, torn shirt, eyes wide with wonder. But Chidi grinned, and Tunde grinned back. Something was changing in that house, something no amount of money could buy. That night would be the beginning of everything. The dining hall of the Okafor mansion had seen presidents, governors, and foreign investors, but never a boy who had once begged for food on the streets of Lagos. The chandelier burned bright above polished marble floors, the air heavy with the scent of roasted fish and coconut rice. Tunde sat stiffly at the far end of the long table, his eyes darting from the glittering silverware to the paintings on the walls. Chidi sat beside him, grinning nervously, while Chief Okafor watched them both in silence. Mrs. Okafor entered, elegant in her evening gown, her face composed until she saw the boy. Her smile faltered. Nathaniel, who is this? The chief didn't answer right away. He took a slow sip of water before replying. This is Tunda. He's having dinner with us tonight. Her brows knit. A street boy? Here? Yes, the chief said evenly. Here. For a long, tense moment, the only sound was the clinking of utensils. Then Chidi reached for the rice bowl and served Tunde first, as naturally as if they'd been brothers all their lives. That small act broke something in the air, a wall of invisible pride that had stood too long. The dinner passed in quiet, but after the plates were cleared and the servants dismissed, Chief Okafor leaned back in his chair, studying Tunda. Tell me something, he said. Why do you teach those children? You could be out begging or stealing. Why waste your time? Tunde looked up, his voice soft but steady, because someone has to show them they can be more than what the world says they are. The chief's fingers drummed on the table. And who showed you? Tunda hesitated. No one, sir. I just decided. There was no self-pity in his voice, only truth. And for the first time in years, Nathaniel Okafor felt ashamed. He thought of the schools he had funded, the charities he had signed checks for, the photo ops and ribbon cuttings, and how none of them had felt this pure. Later that night, after Tunda had fallen asleep on the couch, Chidi crept into his father's study. The man sat alone, staring out at the rain-soaked garden, a glass of untouched whiskey in his hand. Dad, Chidi said quietly, you're not mad, are you? The chief sighed. No, son, I'm just thinking. About Tunde? He nodded. That boy has nothing, and yet somehow he's richer than most men I know. Chidi frowned. Then why does everyone ignore boys like him? Chief Okafor looked at his son, really looked at him, and realized how much of his own life had been spent ignoring the world beyond his walls. Because, Chidi, he said, we build walls to keep our comfort in, and they're pain out. He paused, setting the glass aside. But maybe it's time someone tore those walls down. The next morning, when Tunde woke up, he found clean clothes laid out for him, a simple shirt and trousers, still smelling faintly of soap. Mrs. Okafor watched from the doorway as he dressed awkwardly, unsure if he was allowed to smile. But she did something no one expected. She smiled first. Breakfast is ready, she said softly. That day, Chief Okafor drove both boys back to the park. The same 3 children were waiting, sitting in the dirt, wondering where their teacher had gone. When they saw Tunda step out of a black Mercedes, their mouths dropped open. Bros Tunda, they shouted, running to him. He laughed, hugging them tightly. Chief Okafor stood beside the car, watching, and for once, the billionaire didn't feel like the biggest man in the world. He felt small, but in a good way, small enough to listen. That afternoon, he made a decision. He called his architect, his lawyers, and his accountants. I want to build a school, he said, not a private one, a free one, in the heart of the city for children like Tunde and his friends. The news spread like wildfire. Newspapers called it the Okafor Initiative. Cameras came, politicians praised him. But those who saw him that day said the billionaire seemed different, quieter, humbler. When asked why he was doing it, his answer was simple. Because a boy with nothing reminded me what it means to be human. Weeks passed. The school rose from the ground, bright, simple, full of laughter. Tunde was there every day, helping paint the walls, sweeping floors, teaching children under a mango tree. While construction workers hammered in the distance, Chief Okafor came often too, no longer hidden behind tinted glass and designer suits. He talked with the children, asked questions, even listened to their stories. Chidi and Tunde became inseparable. They studied together, played football together, and dreamed together. When the opening day finally came, the crowd was huge. The governor himself was there to cut the ribbon. Reporters swarmed, snapping photos, asking questions. But in the middle of it all, Tunde stood shyly at the back, holding a small notebook. Chief Okafor found him there and placed a hand on his shoulder. This is your doing, he said. You showed me the part of life I'd forgotten. Tunde looked up, eyes wide. No, sir, you chose to listen. The chief smiled. Then we both learned something. As the ceremony began, he called Tunda forward. The boy froze, then stepped out hesitantly. The cameras clicked wildly. This, Chief Okafor announced, is Tunda, the boy who taught my son more than any school ever could. Today, he becomes the first student of Okafor Foundation Academy. The crowd erupted in applause. Tears glistened in Mrs. Okafor's eyes. Chidi clapped louder than anyone. And Tunde, the homeless boy who once taught letters in the dirt, bowed his head, unable to speak. Months later, the park where they had met was empty. replaced by laughter from the new classrooms nearby. Tunde now wore a uniform, carried books instead of a stick, and dreamed of becoming a teacher, a real one, with chalk and lessons and hope. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the city, he stood on the school balcony beside Chief Okafor. The man looked older now, gentler, the sharpness in his voice replaced by calm. "You know," the chief said, "when I first saw you, I thought you were trouble." Tunde chuckled. "I thought you were scary." They laughed. The silence that followed was comfortable, like the pause between verses of a familiar song. "You changed me, Tunde," the billionaire said finally. "You gave me something money couldn't buy, peace." Tunde looked at him, his voice quiet but sure. "And you gave me what I'd stopped believing in, a chance." The two stood there, watching children run across the courtyard, their laughter echoing into the dusk. Somewhere far away, the city lights began to glow, tiny stars born from human hands. Chief Okafor smiled faintly. "The world's a strange place, isn't it? Sometimes the poorest man teaches the richest one what wealth really means." Tunde nodded. "Maybe that's the lesson, sir. Everyone's rich in something. You just have to look close enough." The billionaire put an arm around the boy's shoulder. "Then let's make sure every child gets the chance to find that richness." As they turned back toward the school, the wind carried the sound of children reading aloud, the same letters Tunda had once drawn in the dirt. Only this time, they weren't fading in the dust. They were carved into the future. And in that moment, under the orange glow of an African sunset, one truth became clear. Sometimes, it takes a homeless boy to teach a billionaire how to build a home for others.